This conference will now be recorded.
Introduction, and yeah, you guys have heard it rightly. We were together since nursery, that is kindergarten. So it's quite natural that he would elaborate my achievements more than what I deserve. Secondly, I see my very old teacher, one of my first teachers when I entered into college, undergrad education. Just a minute. અને હું અત્યારે cancel કરી શકું? Yeah. So yeah, today I'm going to speak about one technical topic in a non-technical manner. And as I mentioned that one of my very early teachers, I see him over here on the grid. So it's a combination of happiness as well as sir, are you there? Naren sir, are you there? So bless me, and with your blessings I start my today's talk. And sir, excuse me, this is absolutely a non-technical talk. You have trained us very well technically, and that is taking me a long way ahead in my career. And today when I work extensively with her, I remember you a lot and so often. But excuse me for the non-technical session today that I have scheduled for the users in general. There might be a lot of people, I don't know the profiles. I had been asking Tejas to give me the profiles of the participants, but somehow this being an online talk, it was really difficult for getting the profiles of the participants, and therefore also I chose to keep it a non-technical one so that those who do not have any background in computer science or technology, they can also benefit from my talk. The basic objective of my talk today is to give an overall idea or to sensitize about what big data is and how it can be actually used if you are into any business or if you are dealing with any of the businesses, and how you can make use of big data, how you can tap the resources of big data. And yeah, one more teacher is also there in. Yeah, so I'm really blessed today to have two teachers on the panel. Thank you. Fine. So with this, I begin my presentation. I also see my cousin brother who has joined in. Thank you. Shall I begin my presentation? Sure. Okay. So thank you. Share. Share. Okay. Not bad. So I begin with giving you an overview about what big data actually means. And big data has so many characteristics. Big data is actually bigger than what we can think, bigger than what we can imagine, and bigger than what it can fit into our laptops. And that is why we have clouds today. The data are stored on clouds, and if you might have heard, the people from technical background of course know a deal more about this, the distributed systems. So data are stored across different servers, across different geographical locations around the world, and that is what precisely a cloud means. And this is how, this speaks of the volume of the data, velocity of the data. Before I move on to speaking about the velocity of the data, the variability of the data, venue I already spoke, but about velocity and variability and variety of data. Before I move on to that, I would like to first of all talk about one very important myth that people hold about big data. or data in general, that data means numbers, a lot of number crunching. And no, that's a very, very, very narrow definition of data. Data doesn't mean number crunching only. Data doesn't mean something that is presented in a tabular form. Data doesn't mean Excel sheets anymore. Once upon a time, it used to be. And yeah, that is still a very narrow definition of data, that, okay, there is an Excel sheet. You might have kind of data in lakhs, and even I have worked with data in several lakhs in a Excel sheet and in our tabular format. But no, that's not big data. That's just a very large data set, but not a big data, because big data has to have a velocity. Velocity means we invariably deal with the real-time systems. We collect the data on real time, and we process the data on real time, and we work with the real-time data in order to get the real-time insights. That is what the velocity means. When we talk about variability, variability means that it is not only numbers. It could be text, it could be pictures, it could be videos, it could be audios, and it could be a combination of all this. Typically, as you see, the last point, vagueness, it's absolutely vague when it comes to you. Big data is absolutely vague, and you have to find the patterns out of those vagueness, and you have to make those vague data structured. You have to identify the patterns out of the big data, and the insights that you get out of that is really, really helpful. And it has helped a lot of business, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, even Rolls-Royce and whatnot. A couple of case studies that I will be taking up in the session a bit later. Yes, so variety I have discussed about. Venue, as I mentioned, it is spread across the world, and you can fetch the data from different clouds across the world. There are private clouds and there are public clouds. So not going into the technical details, I think somebody would be taking up that session.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm not going into the details of the technical details of the private cloud and the public cloud, but yeah, that's a cloud that you see. What you see is a cloud. So there are lots of clouds, and different clouds contain. Just a minute again. Out dekha sakya? Screen dekha hai na? Okay, fine. So yeah, I see you people and my screen, and yeah, that typical vagueness is there on my screen, so I have to check what you guys are able to see on your screens. Yeah, but that's fine if you're able to see, and you can see that the clouds contain a cloud itself, and there are tools and statistics, and there are database servers and a lot many other things. That's typically a cloud. So you take from vagueness to value. The vague data is to be structured, and then some meaning has to be inferred out of those vague data. Vocabulary is very important. Vocabulary typically means how the data is described. So where did the data come from? Typically what we call the metadata, if you have heard the term, and metadata means the description of the data ranging from where the data arrived from, who the data belongs to, who has stored the data, whether it is a number, whether it is a text or any other form of data, how long is the data, and so on and so forth. Basically, the characteristics that we talk about includes means the vocabulary. So, big data has applications in any and everything that you can think of. This is typically a talk focused on businesses, and therefore I have specified only the business applications. That it has applications in retail and banking and media, entertainment, healthcare, education, government. If time permits, I would also be talking a very, very brief case study of the smart city, which Surat has been thriving to get the status of it and has come a long way at least. So yes, government can also make use of big data then about transportation and insurance. And I think transportation, this is how BRTS has been launched in Surat a couple of years back. Yeah, one more cloud over here, just to get an idea, and then you fetch everything, and something that you get in the center is typically the big data. Yeah, as I mentioned right in the beginning, that a lot of people confuse between analysis and analytics. If it had been the same thing, it wouldn't have two different vocabularies. The moment you say that analysis is one word and analytics is another word, it means that something is different between the two. Otherwise, linguists wouldn't come up with two different vocabularies, right? So, yeah, and therefore, the difference is that statistical analysis deals with historical data. Historical data is the data that is collected in the past, whereas analytics, people specializing in analytics, specialize in working with real-time data that is not historical, but data that is streaming in. Currently, I'm talking to you, you people are listening to me. That is a typical example, a clear example of online streaming of data. Analyzes data, statistical analysis uses the data, finds mean, median, mode, standard deviation, whatever, etc. So yeah, those typical and boring things, no, with no offense to statistics, because that is my bread and butter. But yeah, a lot of people feel that statistics is boring, just as economics. People say the same thing about economics, and coincidentally, both are my paradisciplines. Whereas analytics is something more interesting. It presents you the patterns, it explores the data, it presents the patterns, and there are very, very beautiful representations of the data that undergoes analytics. Statistics basically answers questions. You have a question on your hand that, okay, is there any relationship between these two variables, or whether this variable impacts the other variable, whether there is, whether the purchase, the type of items purchased in a departmental store is influenced by the age or gender or so on and so forth, is something that statistics attempts to answer, whereas analytics identifies the patterns that you might not have even thought of. I'll come up with an example. It's there on my PowerPoint slide, one of the later slides, wherein it's a case of Walmart. And Walmart had come across, in 2004, there was a hurricane on the West Coast, if I am not wrong, in the USA. And apart from the basic necessities that generated a lot of demand, because of the data analytics, they could identify that the next thing about over and above the necessities that was demanded, there was a surge in the sales of strawberry soda. This is what analytics tells you. This is what statistics doesn't tell you. Statistics examines the pervasiveness of what is apparent. What you can see, yes, it is like a court of law, wherein you know that, okay, this person is culprit, and then you give evidences to prove that the person is culprit. That is what statistics does. You know that this phenomena is taking place. This is the pattern that is being observed, and statistics tells you that, okay, with this much certainty, with this much confidence, we can say that whatever you have observed is correct. Whereas analytics gives you insights. It looks beyond. It doesn't give you evidences of what is already happening, but it gives you insights of what is going to happen, or something that you might not have thought about it, and it has happened. Statistical analysis, hypothesis is again a big technical term, but hypothesis is just a tentative statement about something happening or something not happening. And then people take data, statisticians take data, and they put certain techniques of statistics on the data, and then they check whether the data speaks whatever they thought about it. So they basically test the hypothesis, whereas analytics helps you in framing the hypothesis, this is also possible. This might also be possible. This might be a possibility. Okay, and then where the work of an analyst, the data analytics ends, the work of statistical analysis begins. They complement each other. They are not replacement of each other. Statistical analysis and data analytics actually complements each other. Statistical analysis improves the quality of your answers. So something that you have found using data analytics, statistics helps you in giving you the evidence is okay, fine. We have these evidences. Whatever you have found is 95% correct. In 95% cases out of 100, what you have found is going to happen. That is what statistics tells you. Whereas data analytics actually identifies, it helps you to frame the question. Okay, in case of a hurricane, even a strawberry soda can have an increased sales. So that is basically the difference between statistical analysis and analytics. So these are some of the myths. Thank you. These are some of the myths about data, statistics, and analytics. Analytics is not the end of statistics. It just makes use of statistics more efficient. Analytics is not storage and retrieval of data. A lot of people I have come across and have talked on various platforms. They ask me, excuse me for a water break. Thanks. Yeah. So a lot of people on different platforms have asked me, okay, do you work with Hadoop? Do you work with MySQL? Do you work with NoSQL? No, that's not my job. I'm not a data manager. Maybe I don't even know. Naren sir, excuse me, you taught us very well, but I'm not into it. So no, that is the role of a data manager. That is not the role of a data analytics. But Narendra, you also told us that programming is very, very important, and I have not left programming till date. I still do a lot of programming today.
Yeah, Smruti, don't.
Analytics is not the storage and retrieval of data. It is about identifying the patterns or working with the data that is already retrieved. So yeah, I get ready-made data. Somebody comes and gives me, okay, this is the data, you have to work on it now. Yeah, as I mentioned, data storage and retrieval is data management. It is not analytics. Data is not just numbers. This is also what I mentioned some time back. That data is not just numbers. It could be text, and yeah, language no bar. Your WhatsApp chat, which you write in Hindi using an English script, is also your data, and that is being analyzed. A lot of people where I studied at the University of Essex are into deciphering or decrypting this information that the script which is used is English, but the language is something else. And typically Indian languages and Arabic people are working on deciphering that. Yeah, it could be pictures, audio, video, or a mix of all of this. As we will soon see that Facebook is a typical example of data, which is a combination of everything, even hashtags. Data is like God. It's everywhere. I mean, if you believe in God, there are a lot of atheists I have come across when I was in England, but yeah, at least in India, we still believe in God, and a lot of people believe in God. So data is God. It is present everywhere, omnipresent. Unstructured in nature, you cannot see, you cannot identify, okay, this is God. No, we cannot see that. So we cannot say, okay, this is data. So I invariably compare data with God. And yeah, for me, data is God because that's my bread and butter. Business applications, customized advertisements. Most of us have experienced that when we open Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, Twitter also does that tacitly, for that matter. We get to see the advertisements of the products of what? Of the products that we are thinking in our mind. Okay, being a woman and interested in cooking as well, I have been looking for electric oven since at least 6 months now and have not made a choice of which one to buy so far. So I'm using my neighbor's oven for baking. But these days, invariably I open my Facebook, I get one model of electric oven with a suggestion that maybe this might be suitable to you. So how does Facebook read my mind? So this is one of the applications of data analytics in business. Fuel optimization in industries that requires transportation is another example. Enhancing safety in passenger aircrafts, fuel efficiency also in the passenger aircrafts, making delivery services more effective. And yeah, Amazon, Big Basket, these people are, business organizations are just a classic example. Amazon also uses a lot of big data analytics, and so does Big Basket. Yeah, this is something that I have accidentally put it, customized dynamic learning programs. But that could also be related to business applications, as what Microsoft is doing precisely. Predicting the demand for water and energy during summer. This could be helpful to the municipal corporations, any municipal corporations for that matter. And yes, I would no. Let me keep it for some time later, because then our discussion would get drifted from business applications to government applications. And this is very important in Indian conditions, predicting potholes on roads in monsoons, especially. So now we begin with the case study. The very first case study I would be discussing is about the Facebook. And as I mentioned that Facebook gives you customized advertisements. Facebook also gives you friend suggestions. So what goes on behind giving friend suggestions? Facebook also gives you suggestions on this page. You might be interested in so-and-so page. I don't know. Sometimes back, I registered with a network, a page, or what it is called technically, a group, yeah, called behavioral economics. Now, every second day, I'm getting a suggestion saying that, okay, this is a group of microeconomics you might be interested in. This is a group on macroeconomics that you might be interested in. This is a group on business, this is a group on behavioral economics professionals that you might be interested in. And yeah, at times you even get bored of so many suggestions, but Facebook does that. Why? Because Facebook has our demographic data. You have to input a lot of things, and you actually like doing that, okay? You like people remembering your birthday. You like people wishing you on your birthday. You like people wishing you on your anniversaries. You like people looking at what is your current occupation. You like people to look at your achievements. And you like people to know where you actually live presently and where you lived a couple of years back. All this data is being stored by Facebook. Facebook typically works on human psychology and collects the data that they can use eventually using human psychology to please you. And that is why Facebook has so many users. And by increasing the number of users, basically it's doing business. They have also come up with this feature of marketplaces. And one very important thing, okay, these days Facebook and this WhatsApp, they all have come up with stories. So your story stays for 24 hours. You feel that after 24 hours it's all gone. No, it's not gone. In WhatsApp, perhaps it's gone for you, but it's there in the server. But in Facebook, you also have a feature of archiving the stories. So you, even at a later date, would go and access your stories that you might have put in just for 24 hours, even 5 years later. Another thing, we have a habit of, we all do that, okay, even I do that, you do that, all of us do that. We look at some of the posts, but we don't click the like, we don't try to comment. Okay, we are just fine, okay, so and so person is doing this, so and so person is here. But we don't want the person to know that we are actually looking or spying on the activities. Spying is a bit harsh word, but yeah, we do that, we all do that. Now, when you are actually looking at that particular post, you are not clicking the like. Facebook analyzes likes, Facebook analyzes comments, but you are not doing anything. But Facebook records how much time, how many seconds you spent on a particular post. And therefore, next time, if some update is there from that person or that group, even if you have consistently not clicked any like or you have not written any comment, you will still get an update because you spend some seconds or you come and visit that post again and again, and Facebook records even that. So that even is a data for Facebook. Another important thing about Facebook is that it has integration. WhatsApp it has purchased, Instagram it owns, and Google. These days, we people have become so much dependent on Google. I had an email account even before Google came into existence, but eventually, all those who had email accounts before Google came into existence, all of us, forget about me alone, all of us have our own Gmail accounts. You don't know for what you might be using your Gmail account. It could just be a dummy account for Facebook. It could just be a dummy account for logging into your Android phone, whatever. But it isn't dummy at all for the devices on which you are using. And most of today's generation, I had been talking to a couple of students asking about their email addresses, and they were like, "Madam, we don't have email, we have Gmail." Okay, fine, Gmail is fine. So they don't even know the difference between what is an email and what is a Gmail these days. So Gmail is that pervasive. Gmail has become a god today. So everyone has Gmail account, and this young generation are so active on Instagram, believe me. Facebook is for people like us with a couple of gray hairs. But yeah, Instagram is the buzzword for the younger generation, and they all have Gmail account. And yes, Instagram is owned by Facebook, so Facebook has access to all the data that Instagram generates, and it's linked with your Google account, your Gmail account, so your contact list, your everything that you do on your Android phone, even if you use your Instagram is very inconvenient to be used from a laptop. But whatever you do on your phone, whatever, cookies and crackers and so on and so forth, all the data is being collected. Safe data, unsafe data, everything is collected by Facebook. What does it use? So it basically has custom design servers, and it relies largely on open source technology. So being an economist, I would say that all the firms try to maximize their profits, and by maximizing the profits, they minimize the cost of operations and they maximize the sales. So this is how they minimize the cost of operations. That is, they use open source technology, and the technology that is being used mainly by Facebook is PHP, MySQL. Hip-hop is developed by FP itself and Apache Hive. And look at the output, the outcome. It's increase in online advertisement by 24% in US market only. That is so much of business. only in the USA. And Facebook is also like God, it's all pervasive, omnipresent. So across the world, how much percentage of business it might have made would vary from country to country. Coming to LinkedIn, a lot of us, especially those who are professionals and those who want to have a professional network, they all have their LinkedIn pages. And whether you know someone or you don't know someone, they are your connections. I don't know, a lot of people are doing that even on Facebook, even on Instagram. But LinkedIn is specifically for getting in contact with the strangers belonging to the same profession or similar profession, or the profession in which you might be interested to give your expertise, maybe related or unrelated. Like big data can apply to any profession. So big data professional could be having the network, could be having his or her network with professionals in across the disciplines. So LinkedIn has two features. One is the paid feature, that is the premium member, and another is members who are not premium, who are regular members. So a lot of us don't pay anything, and there are some professionals who actually pay yearly fees and become premium members. So LinkedIn actually increases its business, of course, by advertisements, online advertisements, but more by having more subscribers. That is what Netflix is doing. That is what Amazon Prime is doing. Everybody is doing that. So increasing the subscriptions, increasing the number of premium members, that is what LinkedIn is interested in. So that is market positioning and retention of the professional networks. Again, just like Facebook, it records and analyzes every click, every page that you might visit, every interaction. And at times, it asks you auto suggestion, right? Something pops up on your screen, whether it is you're using on your phone or you're using on your laptop or iPad or whatever. It pops up that grow your professional network. It says grow your professional network and allow the access to all your email contacts. If we are not very vigilant, and a lot of people do this mistake of clicking on OK without even reading anything, and that is how LinkedIn officially and legally gets information of all your email contacts. And you might also have experienced that if you have more than one email, all of us have that, more than one email addresses, then the email address which is not linked with the LinkedIn, you get suggestions that so-and-so is suggesting you to come on LinkedIn, so-and-so is suggesting to come on LinkedIn. So that is how, through accessing the email addresses, it gives you suggestion that, okay, be a LinkedIn member, be a LinkedIn member. And then one fine day, my mother at the age of 75, she created her LinkedIn account. So this is what happens. Of course, she was a professional. So LinkedIn also integrates with Google. As I said, that we all have Gmail accounts, and you know how Gmail, how omnipresent Gmail is. Now, when this professional network integrates with Gmail, what happens essentially in the background is that if you open up your browser, even on your mobile phone, in the background, you are logged in as so-and-so at gmail.com. So all your browsing history goes into the servers of Gmail. And if LinkedIn is also running in the background, if Facebook is running in the background, if Instagram is running in the background, all your browsing history is accessible to them as well. And that is how they are able to customize the advertisements. Customizing job suggestions. Of course, LinkedIn straight away asks you what kind of jobs you are interested in. And then you have your own suggestions And then when job suggestions pop up, you look at some job suggestions, you actually check for the job requirements for some of the jobs. Some of the jobs you just scroll up, and some of the jobs you spend some time on. This further narrows down the search about what kind of jobs, what location you might be interested in, what kind of salary is more suitable to you, and so on and so forth. Continuously, the servers of LinkedIn or Facebook are running. And if we talk in the context of jobs, job suggestions, now LinkedIn not only has job suggestions for the users, but there is another feature of LinkedIn that companies can create their own jobs. And of course, they have to be premium professional members of LinkedIn for creating the jobs. They certainly ask for money if you want to post your advertisement, job advertisement. So these are the data. So these are the data that is collected by LinkedIn. Classification of posts. This, I hope you all might be aware of and might have experienced that your posts, after some likes, some comments, you also get very small information on so many views on your LinkedIn post. And yes, we are curious. We are, all of us, to some extent, narcissists. So we would be interested in knowing, okay, let me see who all saw my post, didn't react but saw my post. And therefore, if we click on the views, we get information on so many people from India, so many people from England, so many people from Germany, so many people from etc. countries. Yeah, if you do not have a worldwide network, it even gives you so many people from Surat, so many people from Vadodara, so many people from Ahmedabad, so many people from Mumbai watched your post. And then another page says that so many were HR professionals, so many were big data professionals, so many were job searchers, so many were so on and so forth. I think it gives me top professions, 3 top regions, and 3 top, what is the view? Expertise. Yeah. So this is also collected by LinkedIn. Job search, job preferences, company preferences, professional profiles. I've already mentioned about this, so I'm not going into detail of that. But the technology that is being used by LinkedIn is mainly Oracle, Pig, Hive, Kafka, Java, and MySQL. Again, most of them are, except for Oracle, most of them are free and open source. No, MySQL is also not free and open source. No. It's NoSQL that is free and open source. So yeah, apart from Java, Hive, Kafka, and Pig, yeah, these 2, Oracle and MySQL, are paid. They also make use of something which I don't know anything about. It's called the Voldemort and Espresso for data storage. And they have developed their own Pinot software for data analytics. LinkedIn, as it says, the output is rapid expansion of the company. When LinkedIn was launched in 2009 or 2010, I'm not very sure. But when LinkedIn was launched, it only had 2,700 members in the very initial year of the launch of LinkedIn. And LinkedIn still had 1,000 employees. Today, we have no idea about the dimension of the number of members that LinkedIn might have, including the professional and the premium members. And LinkedIn, as per the last statistics, has 9,000 employees. Coming to Walmart, those who are into merchandise sales, they might be interested in the applications of how big data could be applied to merchandise sales. Yeah, as I said that during that hurricane in 2004, which hit the US coast, there was a sudden spurt in the sales of strawberry soda. And these insights, they could derive only because they were using and processing real-time data. Another example was that the cafe, which is run by Walmart, they had launched a new kind of cookies. And with the help of real-time data, in a day or two, they realized that these cookies are not getting sold at all in some locations. So they waited for almost a week. And then they checked at different locations that why these people are not eating the cookies, or why these people are not buying the cookies. Is it not properly placed? Is it not properly advertised? It is not properly labeled. What is the reason behind this? And Walmart came to know that these cookies were not even put on the shelves in most of the locations. So this is how big data helps you. The real-time aspect of the big data helps you in identifying the business, the issues that a business might face. I don't know whether it is mentioned by the Walmart CEO or somebody else, but it is said that if you work with the historical data, which is what typically statisticians do, if you work with the historical data, yes, you get a lot of insights, you get a lot of confirmations. But then what happens is, if I collect the data for 1 week and then decide to analyze it, I have already lost the business for that particular week. And being a business person, I cannot afford to lose even for an hour, even for a minute. And therefore, analyzing real-time data and taking immediate actions is very, very important. A lot of business houses have experienced that because of the use of real-time data and big data analytics, their decision-making time has reduced from several weeks to several hours, business decisions. So far as Walmart is concerned, it helps in giving insights about the product design, product positioning, maintaining the supplies. Okay. Real-time data for Walmart, of course, it might be true for LinkedIn and Facebook, but I don't think LinkedIn and Facebook might be getting data in terms of petabytes. It could be in terms of zettabytes, that is 10 raised to 6 terabytes or 10 raised to 12 gigabytes. So real-time data of transactions of Walmart results in petabytes of data only about the consumer transactions. But then Walmart is on Facebook, Walmart is on LinkedIn, Walmart is on Instagram. And there are followers of Walmart on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and whatever you might think of. So it also tracks the social media conversations. And these days, we all have a habit of saying, I purchased this is my new purchase, this is my new bike, this is my new fridge, this is my new whatever. Facebook, Instagram has entered, sorry to say, even our bedrooms. And this is what the businesses capitalize on. So it takes information about whether the people are satisfied about the product, what are the issues that people face about the product, whether they are recommending to the friends, whether they are receiving recommendations from the friends. And we, again, as human beings, we have a psychology of what is called a bandwagon. So and so has purchased this. Okay, if that person has this particular commodity, why shouldn't I have? My neighbor has purchased an iPad. Why shouldn't I have? Come on, I have a Samsung tab. It's enough for me. I don't need an iPad. I don't even afford an iPad. Just for example. But no, my neighbor has an iPad, so I should have an iPad. This is what our psychology is. And all the businesses, especially the consumer businesses, they just act on the softer side of our psychology. Apart from consumer information, Walmart also derives insights from meteorological data, telecom data, gas prices, and even events that are taking place in the vicinity of the Walmart, and they do all things, everything to aggressively promote. I don't use the word marketing or advertising, just to promote their sales. Continuing with Walmart, yeah, as they focus on product design, positioning, and maintaining supplies, the technology that is used is Polaris, and Shopycat is developed by their own team. It's their own development. Shopycat, just like copycat. So how people's habits are influenced by their friends, how people, imitate the neighbors and the friends. They use distributed Hadoop framework, Apache Spark, Cassandra, Apache Spark and Cassandra for processing and retrieval, and R and SAS for analytics. I myself use R very extensively, and occasionally I use Python also for analytics. Outcomes, yeah, this is what, oh, not even hours. It has reduced to around 20 minutes. Coming to the banking sector, since the time is running out, I won't take much time in discussing the case study on Royal Bank of Scotland. Royal Bank of Scotland faced a major crisis at the time of this financial crisis that America faced, and following that rest of the world faced. Royal Bank of Scotland is basically a bank of UK, and it was considered to be one of the top banks until 2008, and then some, it was kind of, government took some stakes, and then eventually then it was privatized, and a lot happened after the subprime crisis of 2008. So their focus is on the customer service strategy, and the CEO of Royal Bank of Scotland right from 70s, they said that in the 70s and even in early 80s, they knew the customers by the name. They knew the customers by where they stay and what's their financial background and so on and so forth. Somehow, with the advent of the technology, that personal touch was lost, and they have used big data to regain the personal touch. Because again, with the internet banking or mobile banking, all the personal data is available, and they ask for some additional data and bring in the personal touch. This is a strategy adopted by the Royal Bank of Scotland for bringing in the lost customers, the customers that they lost at the time of the subprime crisis in 2008. And they have successfully done that. Royal Bank of Scotland, again today, has got a very good positioning in the market. Of course, I'm not going into the details because the time is running out. So what data they use, what the use of the data for, what their wishes and personalized financial advice and optimizing the insurance. I'm not going into the detail of all this, but basically the focus on giving customized products to the customers over and above giving a personal touch. They use mainly CRM for the customers' information, and for analysis, for the analytics part, they use SAS, Hadoop, and Cassandra for processing and retrieval of data. Yes, they have the returning customers that were lost during the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008. This is what I already mentioned. So, yeah, what if you can't afford all this? This all sounds really fascinating, but also with fascinating technology comes a fascinating cost. And there is a solution, and the solution is crowdsourcing. Give your problems, give a hypothetical data set for competitions, and Kaggle typically does this. Kaggle is the middleman. It takes the data from those who are interested in getting the data processed, getting the data analyzed, getting the data processing done, or getting or finding the patterns from the data and giving insights about the business. Kaggle typically does everything by hosting competitions. So companies and organizations can give a data set. Of course, considering the privacy concerns and security concerns, they can simulate a data set and give it to Kaggle, give it a deadline to be solved, and give a small price, which could be much, much cheaper than hiring the professional services. And then you get solutions from across the world and a variety of solutions which you might perhaps not get even by hiring a professional service. Yeah, it reminds me of completion of 1 hour, but yeah, I'll take some liberty to continue. Sorry, I'm cutting short your time for question answers, but not more than 2-3 minutes. So Kaggle brings brains from across the world, and yeah, plethora of solutions are being provided, each solution with an estimated accuracy and even the tools used. So you have a huge variety to choose from what solution suits your business needs. Company can also optimize the solution accuracy. I mean, it's always a trade-off. Better the accuracy, more would be the investment aspect and investment in tools. So that also the company is free to choose in comparison with hiring the professional services. There is also a trend of using free and open source software. And as I mentioned, Walmart also uses a lot of FOSS softwares. And this is how crowdsourcing makes it. I'm skipping the discussion on challenges and solutions because I have already discussed about crowdsourcing, and that's one of the solutions. But yeah, privacy issues can be dealt with giving a simulated data set. And yes, with I think 2 extra minutes, I have completed my talk on time. And with permission of the organizers, we can have an open discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bulsari, for such a good informative session. I'm sure everyone is happy with whatever you have provided over here. You have mentioned case studies and where things, big data analytics can be used for various urban local bodies. I have few suggestions coming on my feeds. We suggest that we will need to have a separate presentation maybe on data analytics in urban local bodies. But before that, there are questions for Nilesh Patil over here, and he wants to know how is the scenario of
Stop sharing the screen.
how big data is used in Surat, and if there is scope for big data in Surat.
Well, this is a question to answer for the first one. Whether the big data is being used or not. Honestly speaking, I don't have any information about big data in Surat locally. So, sorry, that part I'll not be able to answer. But is there any scope in using big data in Surat? Yes, the scope is ample. And may I know who has asked this question, please?
Nilesh Patil.
Nilesh Patil. Okay, in what context you would like to know how the implementation of big data in Surat? I can specifically talk on that.
Nilesh, you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly to Dr. Bulsari right now, because he wants to have one-on-one inputs from you in this case, so that she can answer appropriately. Please, Nilesh. Yeah, while Nilesh comes in and puts puts further inputs, let me tell you something about the usage of big data in Surat. See, there might be so many companies and industries who are already using big data in Surat. One of my clients uses big data in Surat, and we are providing solutions and consultancy for that. He is using it in textile industry. He is manufacturing of textilizing sensors, and he has huge terabytes of data collected from so many machines run by various industries using this sensor. And we are now using that data for analyzing and predicting whether the machine will be further errors or not, and the production of yarn, and whether the pre-activity, whether the quality of yarn will degrade in next few weeks or not. So that is what I want to be asking. Even there might be others who are already working. Like I am having some inputs. The last minute is using some scenarios for this. But as you might know, there's like the confidential and business people. Not many people will be ready to share this initiative of there, because if they share it, then they will be losing the businesses that they are having. But again, as you might be understanding from the first slide, very first slide of Dr. Bulsari, she had said that the prerequisites for big data is volume of data, right? So what has happened is that not many people were aware about that. They have not collected historical data for the business processes, and they have not.
Voice is not coming properly.
Yeah, am I audible now?
No, it comes with echo.
Yeah.
That's
so
a problem.
Basically, what will happen is that they might be losing the competitive edges, and that is why they will not be ready to share those initiatives. And as I said, many people were not aware about the importance of historical data gathered. And as Dr. Balsari's first slide very rightly said, that it has to be the volume of data which is required as the first prerequisite. So as they don't have that data, they have lost chance. But now people have started gathering data that I have understood from various sources, and maybe in coming years, maybe next 2 years or something, everyone will be using their data analytics and big data techniques for their businesses. So if we are not onto that particular bandwagon, then definitely we will be losing those competitive edges. I hope I have answered your concerns, but if you still have concerns, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. Thank you.
Okay, since Nilesh has not returned, and we have one question from Nitin Patel. I would like to answer the question of Nitin Patel and the question of
How can the Docker and Kubernetes be useful in big data?
thanks for pointing me out that I'm muted. I'm thanking the software, sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
asking one.
So I spoke a lot of things which you might have missed because my microphone was muted. But I'm talking about the smart city, one of the smart city solutions that insight which I have received from a city called Milton Keynes in England. It is located on the outskirts of London, and it has been a planned city, unlike most of the cities that come up on its own, starting from settlement around the riverbanks and so on, if you go into the history of the civilizations. But this Milton Keynes is a planned city, and when they planned the city, they also planned that we would be generating big data and we would be using the big data for efficient development of the city. And it's worth visiting once, Milton Keynes, if you are in England or if you happen to visit England. It's close by to London. The solution that they were working on, one thing that struck me at the time of discussion about Milton Keynes was that some of my teachers in England, they were working on providing the solution of identifying the leakage in the water pipelines. It's not that it happens only, it happens everywhere. So let's not blame India unnecessarily for water leakages, and things go out of order, things damage, and that happens across the world. So water leakages do happen even in England, and to identify the leakage, or it is important to identify a prospective leakage. 15th September was Engineers Day. I'm continuously looking at the watch because at times I run out of time when I speak a lot. 15th September was the Engineers Day, and there was a video clip that was being circulated across the social media saying that one young guy was traveling in a train and he was sleeping and he suddenly woke up to an unusual noise. He pulled the chains and everybody, including the railway staff, rushed to the compartment thinking that this man has gone crazy because nobody knew him at that time. He was just a young budding engineer. And he said that there is some crack on the railway track. He was sleeping and he realized the crack on the railway track. Yet we all know who that great engineer was. But what I'm trying to say is that if human mind can think about identifying a railway track even while sleeping, which not everyone can do it, but a machine can be developed by tapping those potentials of a human brain, which is typically called artificial intelligence, which is one of the implementations of big data analytics. And if it is implemented in businesses, it's called business intelligence. So this is how they might even identify the possibility of leakage in a water pipeline. And when I heard this for the first time, I was like, come on, how is this possible? You people are talking, you people are just fantasizing things, and no, this is not going to work out. But now I know the technology. Now I know that they have already worked out. And yes, I believe that this can happen. And this can be implemented in Surat. It's one of the smart city solutions. And I think last time when we had a hackathon, I couldn't spare a lot of time, but I could go through the profile of the projects that were being prepared in hackathon. And I think a lot of such questions were being tried to answer to get the insights. Yeah, and this is typically physical crowdsourcing of data analytics that SMC and SuratTi iLAB does. Coming to your question, Nitin Patel, keeping in mind the background of economics, can you share some cases of data analytics being practiced for Indian economy? Yes, a lot. RBI uses big data. Government of India uses big data. Of course, they are still in their infancy. And therefore, a lot of potential requires to be tapped. We, as academicians, also use big data, but large data sets. We use large data sets, and I have myself worked with the pattern identification of unemployment across India and have tried to examine the causes. Of course, there is a theory which says that, okay, wage rates influence unemployment and so on, other things remaining constant, but no, other things don't remain constant. And because other things don't remain constant, you have to identify how those not remaining constant, but assumed to be constant things are contributing to unemployment. And that is what precisely I have been working on of late in one of my researches. But if you really are interested in how big data analytics and the technology is being used for economy in general, not necessarily Indian economy, you can refer to one very good article by Hull Varian, who happens to be the chief scientist at Google, who is an economist by profession, who is an academician turned professional. I mean, academicians are also professional, but he's now into the industry and he's giving a lot of insights to the Google from on the economics perspective. And he has written a very good article looking beyond econometrics. And if you can give me your email address, I don't mind even sharing it. Is available in free domain, so that's absolutely fine. I think that's all I have to answer about these two questions. Lapsiwala Rajna ma'am, please tell that professional name in the chat box. Which professional name? Hull Varian. Okay, yeah, I'll write that in the chat box. Okay, just a minute. Where is it? The chat box. Yeah. It's Hull Varian. Even if you Google's chief economic officer, you will get his name, Hull Varian. You're welcome. And thank you all for your patient listening. I hope you liked it. Thanks a lot. Over to organizers. Thanks, organizers.
Thank you, Dr. Bulsari, for such an informative session. It was really nice of you to spare your time on such early morning or weekend. And thank you all the audiences for attending this session. I'm sure that you all are feeling like this session should have gone a bit more, but I'm sure Dr. Bulsari would oblige us by coming again to one such session and continuing this discussion. I would also like her, I would also like her to prepare one particular talk only on how big data analytics can be used in urban local bodies and how Surat can use those things to come in the top of the smart city list across the globe. So thank you once again for all such informations and the informative session. And thank you, audience. I would like thank you. So I would like to break this session over here. By concluding this session, we will be starting shortly the next session from Dilli Maharjan on virtualization technologies. He is going to talk about how virtualization can enhance the works of BBA by giving few examples and how talking about different technologies which exist and what he uses as a BBA in his day-to-day work. So hope to see you all across in that session, and thanks for attending this session once again. Bye for now.
This conference will now be recorded.